And my guest in this hour, and probably the next hour as well, Sidra Naeem. We got to talk about Shamima Begum. Well, it had to happen sometime on this show, didn't it? My regular guest, my regular monthly guest, Sidra Naeem, joins me in a few moments after Madison Avenue. Drive time with Roz for a Thursday, Gateway 97.8.
Local radio, Gateway 97.8. Drive time on Gateway 97.8.
Be Gateway 97.8, our local radio from the heart of Eastgate, and we got a local guest in the studio with me this hour, and we'll probably stretch it to the next hour as well. We usually have so much to talk about with our monthly chats. Sidra Naeem, who is a teacher. She's also a Muslim chaplain over at Anglia Ruskin University. She appears in various other venues around our area as well, helps the homeless, and is going to see the Queen as well in May. Welcome back, Sidra. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. It's lovely to be here as usual.
And we've got a lot to talk about, haven't we? Because it's been so busy. We've been chatting via email over the last week or two about, Shamima Begum.
Yes.
You asked me off mic a few moments ago, what's my viewpoint on it? I think when I heard that she wanted to come back, at first I was very angry. Mm-hmm. Probably the knee-jerk reaction is to be angry because you think, well, she's a terrorist,
yes,
or the bride of a terrorist.
Yes.
And then afterwards I think, well, you know, she is UK born, as we're led to believe, and where else would you expect her to go? You know, is she to be made completely homeless in another land, that where there's no law at the moment, there's nothing in place, there's no she's in a refugee camp.
Yes, and there's a baby at stake here who's innocent in all of this.
Yes.
Who's got absolutely no fault of the baby in anything. And in a way, you will be, acting with humanity to save that baby, really.
Yeah.
But I still feel if she is to come back, she will need to be put to justice for what she's done. And like a normal protocol will take place with children whose parents may be unstable, they normally go into care through social services. That would need to be done, if needed, for the child.
Yes.
Obviously, if she's going to enter back here, we would need to follow the law of the land and adhere to all the avenues that you would normally take.
How do you react, though, to what some people say? I mean, she's the baby is born of a I think a Dutch national, so not British, and born in a foreign land, although it's a UK mother. The baby is considered British, but then, like you say, the baby is innocent.
The baby's innocent, but in terms of Shamima, she was actually born and brought up in England, no matter what her colour is and where she went and what crime she did. And I can relate to that, being British myself. So no matter where, for example, say I did a crime. Say I did, and then somebody sent me back to the country where my parents are from.
Yeah,
I would strongly object to that because I feel I'm not from that country.
Well, you're born here, aren't you?
Yes, so I feel people who are born here do strongly relate to the fact that they're born in Britain.
Yes.
And they would expect to stay here.
You call yourself a British Muslim? Would that,
yes,
is that
that's correct. That's
yes. exactly
exactly what I call myself. But I would expect to be put to justice according to the law of this country. So I would, if, the law found I was guilty,
you'd expect to go
prison.
to a British jail?
Yes, of course. And if I wasn't a fit mother, I would expect my child then to be taken into care, which is the normal protocol taken within this country through
and then
social
placed
services.
With another family, perhaps.
Yes, if need be, because there are very strong, strict rules in place. In fact, myself working within special educational needs, there were plenty of children who were from very vulnerable backgrounds, and there was all sorts going on. And a lot of children were taken into care. The assessment system was excellent, the way they found parents being guilty and neglect and that kind of stuff. There's so many things in place nowadays to check.
Did you have a knee-jerk reaction, though, to Shamima, the
I
news?
did at first.
I mean, it's over
Yes.
everything, wasn't it?
Yes.
What was your knee-jerk
My
reaction?
reaction was exactly like some other people's. So
Angry?
as soon as I found out, I thought, what a cheek, I thought
Yeah.
at first. I thought, what a cheek after what she's done.
NHS tourism, she's
Yeah.
going to come back and claim benefits. That's
Yes.
what's going through people's
Yeah,
minds.
I thought, what a cheek. She's done all that, and now what? She wants to come back here?
Yeah, she's
and-
abandoned the UK effectively to go to Syria.
Yes.
Doesn't want to know, doesn't agree with Western values.
Yes.
Wants to go out with people that behead other people, Westerners
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
Doesn't seem to be fazed by that at all. Doesn't
Yes.
appear to be sorry for
Yes.
any of that. And now wants to say...
she had mixed reactions, because I did
Yeah.
see the little clips of all her interview, and in
wasn't very
some,
emotional, though, was she?
she wasn't emotional, and she was very mixed up because she, it changed. Her views changed each time. That's what I found. She was confused.
How are you feeling?
I just gave birth, so I'm really tired. Yeah.
And can you tell me a bit about the child?
It's a boy.
It's a boy.
Yeah. I named him after my old son, because that's what my husband wanted. That's it.
May I ask his name?
It's Jarrah.
What are conditions like in the camp?
Right now it's okay, I get fed. I have a heater now, so, but, it's kind of difficult getting around doing stuff for yourself, especially now that I have a child.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Okay. Will you be able to care for him here?
It's going to be a bit difficult because right now I don't have money, because people without money, it's kind of hard to get around, with the amount of things they give us. So, yeah.
Is life in the camp better than it was in Baghouz over the last few months?
Definitely. I mean, I'm not starving. I have a roof over my head. Before I was sleeping outside, and and there was no medical care, so everyone was getting sick. My kids died because of sickness. So yeah.
You have obviously been through a lot over the last few years. Could you describe for us what it has been like to live with and under Islamic State?
At first it was nice. It was like how they, showed it in the videos. Like, you come, you make a family together, and then afterwards things got harder. When we lost Raqqa, and we had to keep moving and moving and moving. And the situation got difficult. Yeah.
Was there a point where you started to have second thoughts about your life in Islamic State, under Islamic State?
Just only at the end, like after my son died, I realized I had to get out for the sake of my children, the sake of my daughter and my baby. So, yeah.
It was only at the end. It was only at the end. But you didn't have any regrets up until that point. What was it about Islamic State that attracted you? What did you like about it?
The way they showed how you can go, they'll take care of you, you can have your own family there, you can do anything. You're living under Islamic law. Yeah.
Did you know what Islamic State were doing when you left for Syria? Because they had beheaded people, there were executions.
Yeah, I knew about those things, and I was okay with it at first because, I started becoming religious just before I left. And, from what I heard, that Islamically that is all allowed, so I was okay with it.
You didn't question that?
No.
Okay. There's a struggle going on in the UK now at home about whether you should be allowed to come home or not. You know that, do you? Okay. What are your feelings about that?
I think a lot of people should have sympathy towards me for everything I've been through. When I didn't know what I was getting into when I left, and I just was hoping that maybe for the sake of me and my child, they let me come back.
Okay.
Because I can't live in this camp forever. It's not really possible.
The head of the Foreign Intelligence Services in the UK says people like you are potentially very dangerous. What would you say to him?
They don't have any evidence against me doing anything dangerous. When I went to Syria, I was just a housewife the entire 4 years. Stayed at home, took care of my husband, took care of my kids. I never did anything dangerous. I never made propaganda. I never encouraged people to come to Syria. So they don't really have proof that I did anything that is dangerous.
Okay. Your family have made an appeal for you to come home. They are pleading with the British government to allow you to come home. Do you have a message for your family?
You know, just keep trying to get me back. I really don't want to stay here. I don't want to take care of my child in this camp because I'm afraid he might even die in this camp. So yeah, that's it.
What do you think life would be like back in the UK?
I don't know, because I know there would be a lot of restrictions on me. I wouldn't be free to do things like that I used to be able to do. I don't know if they'll take my child away and all these things. That's kind of one of my biggest priorities, my child, because I left because of him. So I wouldn't want him to be taken away from me, and I'm just trying to give him a better life. Yeah.
If the authorities took the child away from you, would you accept that?
It would be hard to accept. I would try my best to keep him with me. I don't see any reason why they would take him away from me. I don't.
I think there are concerns because of what you have been through, views that people feel you may have or still have in regard to Islamic State.
That's something they have to question me about before they take my child away, I guess.
One question that people are asking is whether you can be rehabilitated.
Yeah, it would be really hard. Everything I've been through, you know, I'm still kind of in the mentality of Dawla, you know, planes over my head and having an emergency backpack and starving, and all these things. It would be a really big shock to go back to the UK and like start life again. You know.
May I ask, what was it that attracted you? Was it from watching videos? Was there somebody who recruited you, or a cleric who recruited you? What was it that prompted a 15-year-old girl to go to Syria?
During the time I left, you know, Dawla was on the news and stuff, and like a lot of videos were coming out, and I saw all the videos on the internet, and that just kind of attracted me to them. Like it attracted a lot of people.
Same as others. Okay. Do you know whether your friend Amira Abbas is still alive?
I don't know. I haven't heard from her in a long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did you feel when your other friend, Khadija Sultana, died?
It was a big shock because it was at the beginning of when we left. It was maybe a year after we left. It wasn't something I suspected. You know, it just came as a really big shock. Like now, if I heard that Amira was dead, I wouldn't be surprised. I would be hurt, obviously, but I wouldn't be surprised because of the situation she's still in. But when Khadija died, the situation was still good in Raqqa, you know. It just came out of nowhere.
Do you feel that you have made a mistake? Do you think you've made a mistake when you look back at what you've been through over the last 4 years?
A mistake in going back to going to Dawla?
Yes, a mistake in coming here, living under Islamic State.
In a way, yes, but I don't regret it because it's changed me as a person. It's made me stronger, tougher. You know, I married my husband. I wouldn't have found someone like him back in the UK. I had my kids. You know, I did have a good time there. It's just at the end things got harder and I couldn't take it anymore. And I had to leave.
Have you had any contact with your husband? Does he know that you have had a child?
No, I don't have to get in contact with. I don't know if they would let me get in contact with him. I don't know where he is right now. I would like to get in contact with him.
Have consular officials from the British government been in touch with you? Have you had a phone call from them?
No one, just another journalist, that's it.
Nothing. Okay. Are you able to see the news, the coverage centering on you? Are you aware?
No, I don't have my phone. I can't go on the internet. I don't know what's going on around me right now. Just getting in contact with my family was difficult. I just got lucky, I guess.
You have had some contact with them, have you?
Yeah, the last journalist that came, he contacted my family for me.
Okay. Again, is there anything that you would like to tell them? Do you have a message for them?
Just please don't give up on trying to get me back. I really don't want to stay here. That's it.
Must have been a terrible shock for them when you left.
Because at first, obviously, they did try and help. They did try and ask me to come back, but I kept saying no to them, and then afterwards they gave up. And now I'm kind of, after 4 years, I'm asking them for help now. It's kind of a big slap in the face to them, but I really need their help.
What would you say to them?
I'm sorry for leaving.
And your future? Do you feel that there is the possibility of a good future for you and your son?
Yes, if the UK are willing to, take me back and help me start a new life again, and just try and move on from everything that's happened in the last 4 years.
What was that like? Was that an experience which fulfilled your aspirations of what it was?
Yeah, it actually really did. It was like a normal life. The life that they show on the propaganda videos, it's a normal life. But every now and then there are bombs and stuff.
Did you ever see executions?
No, I never. No, but I saw a beheaded head in the bin.
In the bins?
Yeah, it's really grim.
What was that like when you first saw that? These are the heads of captives?
Yeah, didn't faze me at all.
Yeah.
In some places she did say, I'm sorry, and, it shouldn't, now she realises she shouldn't have gone and things like that. She did say that in some places. But in some places she didn't appear to be moved in any way.
No. No, she'd seen a bucket full of beheaded
heads,
and I mean,
that bit really wasn't,
no bother there really.
Yeah, that showed something wasn't right.
Yeah,
that bit definitely to me showed something was not right.
Mental illness
could be, yes. I mean, to be honest with you, she was only 15 when she went.
Yes, and she's now 19,
and now she's 19. But if you look at, first of all, maturity-wise, she was still at school, so she couldn't have been that mature. And then the trauma she must have gone through, obviously she must have gone through some kind of mental trauma. Her husband,
he's dead, isn't he?
He's dead,
yeah.
Or whatever's going on there. 2 of her children passed away.
Yes.
2 of the older children passed away.
Miscarrying, and that can cause emotional trauma.
Of course
we
it
know.
can, because we know that even from here, in a stable country where someone's living happily, if someone has a miscarriage, it's a huge emotional trauma because it's a death, isn't it?
Of course. And that if that's happened twice.
Yes.
With Shamima.
Yes. So definitely, she's going to need some kind of bereavement counselling for starters.
Yeah, which she won't be getting in that refugee camp, will she?
No, definitely not, because there's no systems in place there. But I'll tell you another really interesting thing which would enlighten everybody is if she did come back here, we would then ask her what actually happened, because it's a huge mystery. How did she get radicalized? Who called her?
Well, that was my next question to you. Well, how would you think it would have started? Would it have started online?
This would actually, she would fill in that jigsaw puzzle that is hugely missing, the mystery which is in this country, about who spoke to her, which media network did she use, what made her go, and what made her not tell her parents? If she was so strong in what she was doing, why didn't she tell anybody?
But I will argue here that there's a lack of parenting somewhere along the line, because
there is.
Parents should know what their children are doing.
They should know what their children are doing, but shall I tell you something? In an ordinary household, parents don't know what their children are really doing because they're in a closed bedroom.
Well, they got that connection to the outside world, which we never had back in the day, did we?
We never had that. Whoever rung round my house, my mum was the first one to pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Whatever conversation
Who is it? Why do you want to speak to her?
My mum and dad were in the room while I was talking to them.
Yeah.
I could never have a private conversation. In fact, sometimes I'd have a laugh with my friends, put the phone down, and my mum would say, "What the hell did you say that for?" You know, because she could listen to everything.
Felt intimidated, didn't you, with it all?
So you know, every phone call came through the house phone.
If it's a boy, you're not going out. It's drive time for a Thursday. We're having a good chat this afternoon with Sidra Naeem. She's my guest in this hour, and a bit of a dark horse. I've now discovered she's a scientist as well.
I was in my olden days. Yes, I'll have to tell you that story, how I ended up becoming a teacher.
Yes. Oh, well, tell me
that was
briefly more. You know, you must have studied science then. And
Yes,
what
I did.
kind of
Yes,
thing?
yes.
Was it, what did you?
My
biology?
degree, yes, biotechnology, which is now biomedical studies.
Right. So to be
In
at
those
Moorfields
days-
Eye Hospital, I thought it would have to be.
Yes, in those days it was biotechnology when I did my degree, but later on that degree became biomedical studies. So it's the recent biomedical studies. That's how I ended up with my husband, who's a doctor.
I did wonder.
We're both science-based, aren't we? This is how we
Okay.
ended up getting married. didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, we were talking about Shamima as
Yes.
well in our last section. You know, because you're always called upon as a spokesperson when anything Islam comes into the area. Just about every radio station tries to get you on air to talk about it and ask the questions why. You said in our last section, if Shamima comes back to the UK, she should face prosecution.
Of course, she has to, because obviously she's got to pay for whatever bad she's done.
Yes, but what if I tell you today that just 1 in 10 British jihadis that have been prosecuted on return to the UK, just 1 in 10. It's not very many, is it?
No, but then again, it could be about saving money, because you remember we had this conversation in the past where the government has very little funds. When they prosecute people and send them to jail, it costs money. And I have got inside information from the justice service that I went to, where I met real judges from big courts like Old Bailey, and they told me on the quiet that...
You're not just saying it on the quiet here, you're saying it in front of a microphone.
Well, I'm saying it because we're on the
you
topic.
feel it's
Yes,
it's
and
important.
it's very sad, because they said we are no longer judges anymore. We are already told how many prosecutions to do from behind in order to
That's
save
by
money.
the numbers.
Yes, I suppose they're given the budget for the year,
Yeah.
and then they're told this is how many prosecutions you can do only. Yet they said the crime rate has increased. The reason is that there's not enough police, because there's been huge cutbacks in the police, and yet they're only allowed to prosecute less. So
Yeah.
less people are going to prison, because it costs the government money to then keep them in prison, doesn't it? When
So
you
if it's
think
by the
about it.
numbers, though, A, B and C could get prosecuted, but if there's not money, X, Y and Z could get off.
Yes, they do. It's not could. They have to be
They
let
are.
off. Yes.
Yeah, it's wrong,
So it's
isn't it?
very sad, you see, and that's why these criminals who are let go of, they then do more and more crimes.
Well, ministers have been urged to toughen terror laws. We're learning. I mean, it's emerged only 1 in 10 British jihadis have been prosecuted upon their return to the UK. And if I was to ask you a figure about how many of these jihadis have returned, have a guess at the figure. How many do you
About
think?
300.
Slightly more than that, 400. 400
Yes.
Britons, they've come back from the Middle East since 2012. Now, it's
Yes.
after leaving to fight for terrorist groups such as Islamic State.
And what's interesting is when they come back, why is their citizenship not stripped off them?
Yes, which
And
is what
what's
Sajid
different
Javid has done with
about
Shamima.
Shamima Begum. So
Yeah.
to me, that is a little bit fishy. Again, I always speak from the heart, which is why everyone likes me. I tell it the way it is. Why is there a difference with Shamima Begum? I think it's because Sajid Javid is trying to get votes, and also he is, there's the voting and all of that's going to take place soon, and also he is winning the people's...
Yes, well, he's doing more than the previous Home Secretary appears to have done, not done.
And he's going by the people's feelings and agreeing with them to get more votes, obviously.
A populist feeling,
That's what it's all about. And it will be a different story after the votes, won't it?
So Shamima, if she comes back, or rather when she comes back, because I don't think that Sidra Javid is going to be able to keep her out of the country. Right. So she'll come back either... if we compare it to the James Venables, the Bolger murderers that were children, they were given new identities and they were kept away, weren't they? And no one was allowed to know their new identities, and probably at a very high cost to the British taxpayer. Same thing surely would have to happen to Shamima. She'd have to be hidden because of, we wouldn't want mob rule, would we?
I was definitely thinking about that. And her child, if the child is taken away from her and put in with foster parents, that child's identity would have to be completely hidden. Yeah. Otherwise, that child will definitely be in danger in the future.
Absolutely.
At school, bullying and all the rest.
But the other thing to remember as well, Sidra, is that we had a child of terrorist, dare I say, the Manchester bomber had his father or uncle or whatever blown up in an airstrike, and that was the seed that started the hate that brought about the Manchester bombing. And I just wonder about an innocent child now growing up, if he or she, they find out about their father's death at the hands of, say, Allied Western forces.
Yep, definitely.
What happened to the mother?
Yes.
There could be we're looking at 20 years on in the future.
Yes, definitely. 100%. I agree with that.
It's horrible to think about, isn't it? OK, we'll chat some more in just a few moments' time. We've got to talk about another topic, knife crime, which sadly we're seeing reports of a helicopter up over Ilford this afternoon. Let's hope it's not been another one. Just before we chat to Sidra some more, we're talking about Shamima Begum, the jihadi bride, on the show today. So, I mean, obviously, if you don't want to hear about that, you can turn off now, go and watch Neighbours. But if you are interested, we will continue our discussion. It's drive time on a Thursday with Roz. We're into the heavy stuff, talking about Shamima Begum. And with my guest in the studio, it's Sidra Naeem, our regular monthly chat about all things Islam. And Islam brought back into the fore once again with the jihadi bride. And it can't do any good for the Islamic faith, all this sort of negative news. When a story breaks like this,
yes, I know, it's sad.
It makes it bad probably for all Muslims, doesn't it?
It does, definitely. And race hate crime always increases when news like that breaks out. And again, this time, I know from all the networks that I'm part of that race hate crime has increased over the since this story's been out.
Really? Just in the last couple of weeks?
Yes, definitely.
What sort of things have been happening? Horrible things like women, I know you've said women have had their headscarves ripped off.
Headscarves ripped off, acid being thrown in people's faces. That's very common in London especially. And especially people who are wearing black, all black niqabs like Shamima does.
Yes.
She wears plain black, doesn't she, and niqabs. So it's definitely increased. Yeah. And anybody who's got a name of Shamima, Shamima's Ma is a very common name in Islam. And there are, I know at least 5 Shamimas.
Yeah.
And a non-Muslim.
But a few weeks ago, nobody would have known that name.
No.
Now everybody knows it, don't they? So.
And I'm absolutely certain Begum is actually a very common name, especially for someone of Bengali heritage.
Yeah, well, the heritage is Bangladesh, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. So Shamima Begum is quite a common name out there, even for other... I know a Shamima Begum.
Really?
Yeah.
But not these Shamima
Not this one, no.
I mean, my concern was she comes back, you'll probably see her as the next contestant on Big Brother or Love Island or The Apprentice or something like that. The notoriety will suddenly turn her into a celebrity. Do you think that could happen?
Well, she's already, in a way, is a celebrity because she's been out there, hasn't she, on the television and on the news and everywhere, She is, in a way, a celebrity, but in a bad way.
An infamous sort of celebrity, yes.
I'm sure she wouldn't think all of this would happen when she went there, and I think before she went, she really didn't have a clue what to expect.
One of the things I heard her say in the interview is she expected to die with her husband, which seemed rather bleak.
Yes, very strange way of thinking, but she said she was just a housewife there while she was there, didn't she, with her children, and she didn't do anything wrong. She wasn't out there fighting. But then I'm just wondering, why would she have gone there? I don't know
what
how
made her believe in that idealism, which we discussed so many times on this programme. It's such a distorted version of Islam, isn't it?
But this is what the radicalisation does. You know, this is, I think, why it is so important that somebody like that does come back here and then tells everybody, so we can try and piece that jigsaw puzzle together.
She could be a force for good now, couldn't she? She could, if she wanted to be.
Yeah, but we could tell her, if you want to come back, you need to tell us the whole story. How was you radicalised? Who is the one who called you there? Which social network did you use? I mean, this is juicy information here, isn't it?
And one of her sisters was begged her apparently not to go.
She might have told one of her sisters, but I know the parents didn't know.
No. And they didn't even know she was on the computer. And how literate are the parents with language, English language and computers?
Now, in a normal household, when I look at my own household, I'm educated, I speak English, I'm very good with IT, but do I know which social networks my children are on? No, I don't, because...
You've got 2 children, haven't you?
I've got 2 children. Everybody, it's
the
culture.
You know what they do every minute of the day?
No, I don't, because, the culture of nowadays is the children are in their bedrooms. They could be doing their homework, but at the same time, they could be online chatting to somebody. Yeah. There's no way of knowing.
Could be Jihadi John or Jihadi Jack, one of these people.
Yes, and you might... I like that one, Jihadi Jack. You might be on their networks. For example, you might be on Facebook with them, but you don't know which one of their 400 friends may be not quite right, do you? Because you don't know all their friends, because a lot of these friends are they're not real friends. There's like virtual friends. They're make-believe friends who they don't even know. You just add anybody on.
Not use their own names on social media.
I mean, if you look
platforms.
at Twitter, I've only gone on Twitter recently, and there's all sorts of people following me. I don't even know who
I'm
they
following you.
Yeah, but I know you. Yeah. But I've got Jack and I've got Peter and I've got John following me. I don't know who they are.
Jack.
I don't know who they are, do I?
No.
Do you see? So it's very different nowadays for even a normal family. Now with this family, first of all, they were living in Bethnal Green. And from my own knowledge of Bethnal Green, on the whole, there is a lot of illiteracy there. So I know the mother, for example, couldn't speak English. I know the dad can't speak English because he was on the news where he mentioned that, he was talking in Bengali, wasn't he?
Was he through an interpreter?
The interpreter didn't even interpret, just the words were going down along the bottom in English. He wasn't speaking in English, he was speaking in Bengali.
Right.
The mother they haven't even shown, so I'm guessing she can't speak English. If they don't even have the language, they're not going to have IT skills, are they?
No. So, but where does the poison creep in? Where do you think the poison creeps in? It creeps in through that internet cable.
Definitely.
What about some of the mosques, though? Because we've heard of preaching in the mosques, haven't we?
Do you know what? I have never come across that happening in a mosque, and I know so many mosques. I truly believe it's actually through the internet, and it's people who they don't know, because in a mosque it's too dangerous to do something like that.
But we had Abu Hamza, didn't we?
Yeah, but he actually wasn't hidden in doing it. He was actually out there preaching it loud and clear.
Filmed doing it, wasn't he?
Filmed doing it. Whereas I think these are quiet people who do it behind the scenes, quietly through internet, online chatting, through Facebook. They grab hold of your details and then they entice young girls.
How much responsibility does the Facebook and Twitter have then with this? Because surely
they don't really, because it's down to the person. It's down to the individual person. There is training nowadays. There is CoOp training in schools, it's called. CoOp training. And it's all to do with policies and in place and to protect you, protection policies to protect you. And it tells you, don't add on friends who you don't know. If someone starts chatting to you who you don't know, block them.
I guess it's easy, though, because it's like, you know, when you go on a website and there's all these advertising banners, isn't there? And you accidentally click on something and then you open up a whole multitude of issues and you have to keep clicking them to close them down, and you get more advertising banners opening.
Yes.
So easy to click on something without realising you've done it.
Yes, there's all sorts going on nowadays, but it's up to the individual people. And I'll tell you something interesting is the parents are always called into schools to do this training, but it's the children it needs to be targeted at.
But if the parents don't speak English, how can the parents go into the school for the training unless you've got somebody?
They're not going to.
Yeah,
they're not going
unless
to.
you've got somebody in the school that speaks Bengali,
and they won't
or
understand it either.
Yeah?
They wouldn't understand it. So there is a huge gap to fill here. We need to target all the parents really who are IT illiterate, including the elderly, poor things. I mean, my dad still doesn't know how to answer his mobile phone.
No, just press the green button, I think, isn't it?
He still uses the home phone, you know.
Yeah, landline.
And he's got an email, but he never looks at it. So I can understand, you know, because this is the older generation.
If you're of that era, though, I mean, I use my phone, if you can call it.
Yes, I've seen it.
You've seen it?
Yes.
Stand by for the laugh.
Yes, very funny that is. Very funny.
Why is it funny? This is an old Nokia
brick Tesco mobile.
I didn't buy it in Tesco's. I think my provider sent it to me, and I asked them, please don't send me a smartphone, because they make me very, very angry. I get very frustrated with them.
But you're very lucky, because I've got no peace of mind at the moment. Every second my phone rings.
Yeah.
Every second a WhatsApp message comes. WhatsApp is being overused nowadays. Overused. At the beginning, I remember it was text messages, and then they got really big, and then WhatsApp came in, and WhatsApp's really big. It's just too much, and it takes away your peace of mind. It's the last thing you see at night, and it's the first thing you see in the morning.
Well, something about that, about looking at screens today and saying, causes memory loss. Certainly television does. Anyway, we'll chat some more in a moment, Sidra. We've got a break for travel, and Thursday drive time with Roz in the hot seat here, and other side of the desk, my guest in this hour and in the next hour as well, because obviously we've got a lot to talk about. Sidra Naeem, talking about Islam. We've been chatting about Shamima Begum and the parents not speaking English. A lot of people not literate then in that East End of London, Bethnal Green. Is that?
No, on the whole, it's quite an area.
It's a generational thing, though, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, her parents, I know for a fact, both of them couldn't speak English. We heard the father recently on the news about his daughter. He couldn't speak English, and you can forget that part. IT literates, totally out. You know, they wouldn't have been IT literate at all.
So Bangladeshi origin they are, but she was born here in the UK. So Sajid Javid really doesn't have any right to strip her of her citizenship, surely.
Yeah, like I said, it's a bit interesting how the other jihadis got back, and they were not stripped off their citizenship.
Well, they haven't. We've said about 400.
Yeah, but also terrorists within this country. You know, we could have an example maybe of the EDL right-winged murder of Joe Cox.
Yes.
He was, you know, like a terrorist, wasn't he?
And he's homegrown
and everything, and he killed her, and she was a person of parliament, wasn't she? But then why wasn't his citizenship stripped, you see? So it's the same thing when you think about it, isn't it?
But then, you see, then there comes into this bit, well, he was a white man.
Yes. Yes,
so
but it shouldn't come into
viewed
really.
A different way, though,
it's
isn't it?
It's viewed a different way, yes. But like we were saying earlier, if she came back, she should be brought to justice. She can go to prison if she's found guilty, which I'm sure she is.
Well, she could be put on trial for treason.
Yes, definitely, and her child can be taken care of through the social services network, and she can fill in the jigsaw puzzle, the big, huge mystery which everyone is just so daunted about.
Why?
Why did this happen?
Yeah.
What did they say to her? Who enticed her, and with what words did they entice her?
Yeah, it's so strange. I mean, you could learn a lot from her, and perhaps it would help prevent it in the future. Although we're seeing Islamic State very much on the back foot now in Syria, and of course with Shamima and plenty of others in this refugee camp, and probably scores of refugee camps that there are out there at the moment. The US forces that are controlling the area where Shamima is, they say that at some point they'll just turn her loose. So what will happen then? Wouldn't it be better to bring her, if she's still considered a threat to the UK, wouldn't it be better to bring her back and keep her under watchful eye, rather than her
letting
be
her go
turned loose and then disappearing into wherever?
Yes, or regretting it later. You know, my heart goes out to the poor baby, really, who's innocent in all of this. If something was to, you know, happen to the poor baby and it died or something, you know, I'd feel guilty. At least, you know, save the baby and then put her to justice, you know, what she's done. That's the only way forward that I can see, really. Like you said, if they don't bring her in, then what's going to happen? She'll only go into another country as a refugee somewhere.
Yes.
And it can get worse. Men will take advantage of her, for starters. You know, vulnerable young girl. You know, all of that's going out.
Or even if she stays in Syria, if they do eventually have law out there, and they might start their own justice out there.
Yes.
She could then find herself on trial in Syria, and the penalty could be far worse than the prison sentence.
Yes, even if they've got a law there. I mean, it looks like a land of shambles to me. But
Well, the buildings are just rubble, and I mean, it just looks horrible. And what I can't understand about Shamima is seeing that on the television, which she must have done, or with photographs. Why go to a place like that, which is just bombed buildings, rubble, where there are explosions going off, gunfire? What would attract you to going there?
That's exactly what I'd like to ask her when she got back here, because they must have told her something, that she's going to have a beautiful life there, and it's going to be this and it's going to be this.
And of course, it's turned out anything but.
Yeah, and she's 15. She was only 15 at the time, so she didn't have any experience of even probably going to other countries.
No, but I think she went out on her sister's passport. She used a false passport to get out there. She certainly had her
But then
head
she was
screwed
clued on
Yeah.
to do that. So this is why it's such a mystery, how they get so obsessed as well, doing these things.
Absolutely. Well, we've got a break for the main news headlines at 6, Sidra, but we know that you're going to stay for another hour, and we'll chat some more. We've got to chat about knife crime as well, which is another horrible subject. So we're really getting heavy on tonight's Drive Time show. If you do want to opt out, perhaps go and watch some soap. As we head into the evening now, Sidra is still here. She's my guest until the end of the programme. We've got so much to talk about. We've been chatting about Shamima. I mean, that's a war and peace on its own, isn't it? Just that one story. So we'll chat some more in a moment. We've got to touch on the horrible topic of knife crime, and we'll see what events that Sidra's going to. We know she's going to see the Queen in a couple of months. Learn more about that. Are enjoying this show tonight. We're talking about Islam, chatting about Shamima Begum, such a big subject. And you know a Shamima Begum, Sidra?
I do. I know lots of Shamimas, and yes, I do know a Shamima Begum, because it's quite a common name.
Sidra, I have to say, I've now learned, is a scientist. She's also well, she moved into teaching anyway. She's for you, the listener, who doesn't know, Anglia Ruskin University. That's where you.
That's my job. So
That's
I'm a lecturer for education,
Yeah.
so I train teachers, and I'm also a Muslim chaplain. I've got a double role there.
Yeah.
And then in my spare time, if you can call it spare time, I do all the voluntary work. So that is things like feeding the homeless, it's things like visiting schools.
And you organise cricket matches as well.
Yes, that's part of all the interfaith work I do.
Yes, so a lot on your plate. and the group in Basildon.
Yes,
that we
Women
haven't mentioned,
Together.
Women Together.
Yes,
which is Wednesdays?
Yes, Wednesdays, once a month.
Once a month,
yes. And the last one I did a talk on stress and anxiety, which went down wonders. It really did. Everyone loved it. Went very, very well. And then after that we had lunch, which is a shared lunch, and then we had a professional artist who came in and she did some marbling with us, which was really lovely. Marbling. So it's oil paints which you put in water, and it makes interesting shapes, and then you put some paper over it, You lift it off and it's a beautiful, like a marble effect.
That's interesting.
Yes.
I haven't tried that. You'll have
It's
to show me it
lovely.
sometime.
I'll show you some pictures.
Yes.
Yeah.
When's the next meeting then? Because I see a little leaflet that's come around the studios here, which I think you dropped in
I did.
last week.
Yes, I gave it to Steve. Yes.
Yes.
The next Women Together is actually in the Easter holidays.
Right. Not
And-
too far off now, because I've seen in the Asda Eastgate today lots of Easter eggs.
Yes.
And I have to confess to munching on a Cadbury's cream egg just the other day that somebody gave me. So that was
Yes.
quite nice.
Yes, as soon as Valentine's over, the next
Yeah.
lot of things that goes in the shops is the Easter eggs.
And then we get a nice little holiday break as well.
Yes, definitely.
What happens in the Muslim calendar over Easter? How do you celebrate in
Yes,
the Islamic world?
Again, it's like any bank holiday. So everybody's off work, the families get together, and they will always have a meal.
And it's always a family thing with
family
Muslims.
thing, definitely.
Yeah.
So it's like treated like a bank holiday weekend. We might have a barbecue in the garden. We might get together, have a big meal together. But definitely we always get together at that weekend.
With all these things going on, you think that Shamima would have stayed with her family, wouldn't you? It must have been, something lacking in that family there.
Yes, I think you're absolutely right. I don't think the family was right to begin with, because I know the dad is in and out of Bangladesh. The
Right.
dad is actually living in Bangladesh at the moment.
Oh, so he's not.
and has
he's
remarried.
not at home.
No, he's remarried.
Remarried.
He has remarried and he is living in Bangladesh.
So it's a broken
It is.
home then, isn't it?
It is. It
so
is.
who's living in Bethnal Green? Is it just the mum?
Just the mum, yes, and
Right.
whoever else, whatever
Sister,
siblings.
I think. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm sure that must have had an effect on her. She probably didn't feel secure in
Yeah.
her family, and the bonding was not there with the family.
I think
for
you're
her to
onto
look at the
something
family.
here.
Yeah,
From what you're
definitely.
saying about your get-togethers, I think we've hit upon something here tonight.
I think that is. I've thought about this. I don't think her own family life was not stable, and the structure, close family structure was
there
not
possibly wasn't a lot of love, or
Could
not
be.
as much as that.
Yes,
there could
not
have
as
been.
there could have been, and it was broken because the dad's in Bangladesh has married another wife there, and the mum's on her own here, can't speak English, whatever.
Yeah, so that would put a lot of pressure on Shamima.
Yes,
And
so
whatever
she
youngsters
must have
there are.
felt that this person, whoever it was, who was enticing her, will make her feel safe, and this happens a lot with vulnerable
Yeah, but then she
people.
goes out there and then just becomes a mum
Yes.
herself and a wife,
Yes.
and in very much the same situation that her own mum's in.
Yes, there was this really interesting lecture I went to at my university, and it was about grooming for sex slaves and things, and it was a poor Eastern European girl, and she was living in Czech Republic or somewhere, and this was a real life story with videos and everything, and she said that this man used to come all smartly dressed into the shop where she used to work, and he used to say, look, I can make you wear smart clothes. She was from a poverty-stricken family, didn't have much to eat, and he said, if you come with me to England, I can give you this and this. You can work, you can have a job, like in the
So
Hollywood
being
films.
seduced by all these things.
And
yes.
money, and you can have clothes. And she fell in love with him.
Yeah.
He'd buy her presents. And then what happened was he gave her a passport, made her a passport. He told her, don't tell your parents. She ran away with him, got here, and straight away he turned nasty with her, put her in this horrible, ugly flat. And from that flat, men came and they paid this man money and then had sex with the girls. It's such a heartbreaking story. And then one day she ran away from there, and then they caught her and brought her back, and that's all her life's been. And she said that because of now what's happened to her, she can never go back to her parents.
No.
She's
What, the shame of it?
named
or?
and shamed them.
Yes.
She's not a virgin anymore because she was from a Orthodox Christian strict family, and she's tarnished her whole family name in a way by running away, for starters. And she didn't see it. She fell in love with him. Love is blind. She really believed him, that yes, he was going to get her a job and she was going to wear lovely clothes, and England's got a big name out there in all the other countries, because England is quite a supernatural country like America.
Supernatural?
Well, it's supposed to be for these countries. We're looking at poverty-stricken lands here, villages where money is very tight.
Well, I know they seem to think that the streets here are paved with gold, and of course,
yes,
they're not really, are
they're
they?
Not.
When the reality is something completely different.
Yes, and it's true in all. If you go to Asian countries, the saying there is that money grows on trees in England. I've heard it myself. So people love coming in. They come here and they think, well, what is there here?
Well, I think you've got to become an MP first, and especially as we're learning they're getting a pay rise today.
Yes. The weather's not all that either. It's usually grey most of the year, isn't it? And raining.
Windy and wet.
And it's really hard work here to work, isn't it?
I think it is.
Yeah, it's hard work to earn a living, and there's no standard of living really.
No.
Mortgages and all the rest to pay.
Well, that's why I keep doing the Euro Millions every week and just praying and hoping that one day my luck will, come. Will turn, yes, absolutely. So it's 6:15. We've got a break for travel. We'll chat some more in just a few moments' time. Sidra Naeem, she's a chaplain and a teacher, Anglia Ruskin University, and all the other things she does as well. Drive time for a Thursday. My guest, Sidra Naeem. She's the teacher and Muslim chaplain, Anglia Ruskin University. She also runs the Women Together group in Basildon once a month on a Wednesday. And we will tell you when the next meeting for that's going to be and what kind of things you can see there. We've been chatting about Shamima Begum, and indeed we've got to talk briefly about knife crime. Though it's not a Muslim thing, knife crime, it does seem to be, though, something that a lot of the black kids are into. The drug gangs, the violence, the knife crime, particularly around areas of London like Tottenham and Southgate. But we've seen some of it spreading here, Sidra. It's not nice. It seems to be a culture problem again. Perhaps young black men, no future, they feel they've got no future, and then suddenly they see all the bling, all the promises of fast cars, their influence. I mean, we talked about grooming for terrorism. This is a very different type of grooming, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, knife crime's definitely increased, hasn't it, in the past couple of years.
But it's not with the white kids, and it's not with the Muslim kids, it's not with the Asian kids.
No.
But it is with the black Asian, with the African kids.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, why it's only within a certain culture. So I don't know if that's more prominent in those areas, because sometimes you get trends within certain areas.
Yeah.
But on the whole,
but it's in Birmingham as well, isn't it? Just the other night, there's a stabbing in Birmingham. But why go out armed with a blade? It didn't happen in our day. I mean, we can, us oldies, we can, say that there were horrendous crimes back in the 70s and 80s, but nothing like what we're seeing now with young people. It's so disturbing.
Yes, I think on the whole, that kind of stuff has increased because of Xbox games and things. There's so many...
Well, they're violent games.
Violent games, yes. That I know definitely a lot of violence has increased because of Xbox games and things. Yes, because they do, they're like virtual reality, and it looks so real, and then there's gunshots and all sorts going off in some of the games.
And I suppose you can shoot people and people die in it, but then you come away from it, you restart it, and they'll get up again and fight again.
Exactly, and it makes people then have a different illusion in real life.
Well, they won't get up again if
they don't. They're becoming immunised towards things, aren't they? The more they see it, the more it doesn't hurt them in a way to do that. So I know that a lot of this kind of violence has increased because of that. But I think this is something really for people to investigate and perhaps do a study in those areas to see why that is especially happening.
Now, you've hit on something here, because we spoke to Jane Gardner just the other week, who's the Deputy Police Fire Crime Commissioner. She's the assistant to Roger Hurst. And when I put the question to her, what can we do to help young black men? She says it's not just black men, but the statistics say otherwise. So it seems to be, I don't want to say a denial here, but if we can't face the truth, Sidra, we're not ever going to get to the bottom of this.
But maybe it is with other cultures as well, but it's more within the Black African community, or maybe they're the only ones who are exposed. You don't know that, you see, because
the worst thing, the thing I hate seeing, you know, is a young black mum crying her eyes out because her only son has been stabbed to death. I mean, that can't
that's
be.
very sad.
It can't be nice to be one of those parents.
Yes, I think gang culture's not good, and where you get a lot of people of the same kind all living together, that's where the gang culture comes in. There is a lot of gang culture in London, and this is where people get into drugs and things as well.
Yeah, I just don't understand how it's come about. And the only thing I can think of is, you know, we could talk about racism again, and black men not getting jobs, you know, going for jobs and not getting them, feeling despondent and run down, and then feeling like that kind of life
Yes, I think
is
there's
the only life.
Yes, a lot of bottling up inside, isn't there, of feelings, and mental illness we know is on the rise. So all of that then leads to these things where, you know, it's a way of people getting attention, isn't it, or letting out their anger. They don't feel they can let it out in any way, so they grab hold of something and they just...
What about the music, though? Because the rap music, there's some strange things in some of the lyrics of the rap music, and the drill music we keep hearing about.
Yes, I mean, that could be having an effect, and that is actually more common, isn't it, within the black community?
Yeah.
So definitely all that drill music makes you hyped up for starters, puts you in another mode.
And I mean, some of the rapping is all about stabbing people and
it is.
that, isn't it?
I got a feeling that's got a big... role to play, actually. The words of songs actually instigate you to do that, and the rhythm is in such a way it makes you all hyper and you know, to the beat kind of thing.
But I mean, we didn't get like this when we were teenagers, were we? I mean, you were into Wham and
light stuff. Yes, you know, it's a bit like heavy metal, and you know, the Sex Pistols when they were out, and there was punk music.
Yeah,
and
punk music was very angry, wasn't it? Anti-establishment.
Like yes, so that was a certain kind of rhythm, and it would get people going, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but they might smash a few guitars up on stage and wreck a few hotel rooms. But that was you'd laugh at that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but that was the culture then, and now the culture instead is get a knife out.
Yeah,
so.
but people are dying, Sidra.
Yeah, it's not a joke anymore, is it?
No, and I mean. What was I angry about back in the 70s? Probably if they took my favourite programme off the television, you know, and cancelled the series, and I'd be angry and upset and everything, but I wouldn't go out with a knife and kill somebody over that. It's silly. It's really, really silly.
Yes.
Incredible. So, I mean, we're getting reports here this evening that Ilford, which was the scene of the latest incident this week, 8 police cars at the scene of a serious incident near a row of shops where a man has reportedly been stabbed. So this is coming to us today. An air ambulance and police helicopter were both seen in the area shortly after 3:30 p.m. today. So another one. You know, the message is not getting out there, is it?
I think there's a big problem here, because when people hear it, it makes them do it more.
Do you think so?
Yes, there was this thing, wasn't there? Was it a couple of years ago? And all of a sudden everyone started...
It's like an epidemic, isn't it?
Epidemic, yes. There was this thing, I can't remember what exactly happened, but all of a sudden everything was being looted in the shops.
Oh, yes.
Do you remember that one?
Riots, yes.
Yes, there was riots, and for no reason at all. People started breaking into shops and things.
And then somebody would accidentally get killed, and I can remember things like names like Blair Peach.
Yes.
And there was a policeman, Keith Blakelock, wasn't it, who died in a riot somewhere in Tottenham.
Yes, I remember that. So there's all sorts. Once something starts, it's like on a roll, isn't it?
Well, it seems that way, and obviously we'll be hearing more probably on some of the morning news programmes tomorrow about, there's another one. And when they reveal, you know, the picture of the person who's been stabbed, I'm going to say, well, you know, I'll put a $5 on it that is a young black lad.
Exactly. But maybe there's a culture problem going on here as well, an identity problem.
Absent
culture
fathers.
Identity problem. Could be. It could be, but that's actually a thing across all cultures now. But there could be a cultural identity problem because they are actually even more British, I would say, than Asians, because the black Africans came here even earlier, and they even more think they are British.
Yeah.
And it could be things that they're not getting jobs, or people are not looking past their colours still, and then they're rebelling.
Yes.
But
Well,
then again, the people they're killing are blacks, aren't they?
Yeah.
As well.
So it's black
that's
on black
very
crime. I mean,
interesting.
and I don't want to see white people die. I don't want to see black people die. I don't want to see anybody die. I don't want to see animals get hurt.
Yeah. Violence is still violence, and killing is still killing for no matter what reason.
It shows us up to be a very primitive race, really, doesn't it?
Yes.
Human beings,
Yes.
no matter what your skin colour is.
Definitely.
And if time for a Thursday, Sidra Naeem is my guest in the studio, a teacher, a lecturer and a Muslim chaplain at Anglia Ruskin University, and she also runs the Women Together group here in Basildon. We've been chatting about knife crime and young black men in the last section of the programme. That's something that I put to the Deputy Police Fire Commissioner Jane Gardner when she was here just a couple of weeks ago. Now, I said to you earlier that, unless we face up to the fact of that this being a culture thing, in certain communities here, we're not ever going to get on top of this situation. There's some audio here of Jane's visit to the studio talking about knife crime and gang culture. This is what she had to say.
That's something that's dear to my heart and really matters to me. And particularly, when you see young people or older people targeted around, drugs and gang culture. And we are really working hard to actually think of ways that we can actually get on top of this and actually, give our young people key messages about how to keep themselves safe, how not to go down that criminality route, and those that are, unfortunately in gangs, which we know that some people are, we want to give them pathways so that that is not their only option. They can make choices. They can remove themselves from that gang culture.
Well, coming and doing
culture.
Something like local radio and volunteering at a station is a way of, coming away from that kind of thing.
Absolutely. And you do some fantastic work here at Gateway with young people, particularly, so it's people like you that are making a real difference. It's things that we're doing at county level. So, for example, we have a violence and vulnerability framework. We work in a multi-agency way, so with social care, our district council colleagues, policing and others, and a voluntary and community sector. We put in a bid to government. We've secured over £500,000 to actually do something that's very different here in Essex, which supports people coming away from a gang culture, being driven by drugs, or those that are on the cusp of maybe criminality in that sphere, actually putting in programs that actually divert people from that. And the Gateway here is an absolute prime example of where you've done excellent work.
But looking at the problems with drugs, and we have to say the people that have come to grief with the recent knife crime that we've seen, it's black men, it's young black men. It seems to be something in their culture. We have to, be honest with ourselves here and say that what we're seeing is, the death of young black men. And it's just so absolutely shocking. It must be heartbreaking to their families. There's something going wrong in young black families. There's something not their absent fathers. Could it be that, do you think?
Well, if I'm honest with you, Ros, I don't think it just does affect young black men. I think it is something in our society today across the country where young people are
just
more
angry
vulnerable.
Or
No, I think it's that they're vulnerable, and somebody will come along maybe and say, your mate's got some money and he's got a new bike, would you like a new bike? Yes please, here's a new bike, can you just run this package for us?
Quick kind of thing.
And there's something about that, and there's something about taking advantage of that vulnerability in our young people.
Well, there you are. You heard Jane Gardner. She's the Deputy Police Fire Commissioner. You're sitting there with your hand over your mouth. Now, I said it's black men, it's young black men. The statistics say it is. Yes. She says it isn't. Yes. See what I mean? If we're not going to face up to that,
Yes, I think the problem nowadays is that if you do say that, you could be, you know, especially
branded a racist. Is she more frightened of being branded a racist?
Yes, that's what it is, I think. And because she's in that profession, she has to be very careful with the words, doesn't she?
You know, in order to help these people, we've got to face the truth first.
Yes, I know. But I think when you're in that job, you have to be careful with what you say. You know, a lot of things are sugar-coated, aren't they?
Well, that's not going to solve the problem, though, is
Yes,
it, Sidra? It's not, you know, having a sugar-coated approach to it won't stop knife crime. We've got to, you know, get tough. We've got to get in there and stop these gangs. We've got to get in there with the black youngsters and show them there is a future and that they can come into a place like this here at Gateway and learn how to, you know, sit here in this chair and present shows. Or if they want to mix music, if they want to go into sport, we want to encourage them. I mean, look at how many more Mo Farahs could we have?
Yes, there's lots of. They're very good at sports, aren't they? They're very strong, actually.
You know,
strong
direct
muscles.
their strength towards something positive.
Positive, like sport. That's a very good idea, isn't it? Boxing and things like that.
We've been going on and on and on for nearly 2 hours.
Yes.
You've got some events coming up.
I've got lots of important events. This Sunday, I am speaking at the chairman of Essex County Council's civic service in the cathedral. I'm doing a reading. It's on Moses.
Right.
So that's very important. And then we're having reception afterwards with drinks and things like that. First reading, Exodus 24:12-18. The Lord said to Moses, "Come up to me on the mountain and wait there. And I will give you the tablets of stone with the law and the commandment, which I have written for their instruction." So Moses set out with his assistant Joshua, and Moses went up into the mountain of God. To the elders he had said, "Wait here for us until we come to you again, for Aaron and Hur are with you. Whoever has a dispute may go to them." Then Moses went up on the mountain, and the cloud covered the mountain. The glory of the Lord settled on Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it for 6 days. On the 7th day, he called to Moses out of the cloud. Now the appearance of the Lord, the glory of the Lord was like a devouring fire on the top of the mountain in the sight of the people of Israel. Moses entered the cloud and went up on the mountain. Moses was on the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. And then next week on Wednesday evening, I have been invited to the High Sheriff Award ceremony.
Okay, yes.
So I'll go to that on
You've got an
Wednesday.
award to come, do you think?
Yes.
Ah, you can put it next to my one.
So I've been invited to that. So that's happening next week. There's a National Mosque Open Day.
Right.
Where all the mosques in Britain are all opening up their doors to the public, yes, to come and have a look at the fun things that we do. And the theme this year is the environment, looking after the environment. So this Sunday 3rd, as part of National Mosque Open Day, it's Romford, they are open this Sunday.
Right.
And my talk, which is at lunchtime, is on how does Islam care about the environment.
That's this Sunday in Romford.
Yes, and everybody's welcome to. So whoever wants to come can come along. Plenty of food, bouncy castle, henna painting, face painting, that kind of stuff. So lots happening as usual. Lots and lots of things, really. Women Together, the next one is in the Easter holidays. I'm also doing a talk in my university on medical inventions this time, the golden age of medical inventions.
Well, being a scientist, you'll be up and able to talk about that.
Yes, and that's happening in the Medical Lecture Theatre on Wednesday, 20th March.
That's at the Anglia Ruskin University.
Yes, and that's at 5 o'clock.
So that's the list of things that are happening. The Women Together events in Basildon.
Yes.
And
Yes.
is there a particular theme for that this time?
I think I'm going to do one on ADHD, because I used to be a special needs coordinator for special needs children, and ADHD is when you're hyperactive, and there's a huge increase in that nowadays. So I'm going to look at the causes of ADHD, and also how we can help those poor children.
Okay.
Including the diagnosis procedure, medication, that kind of stuff.
And that's on Wednesday.
Wednesday, let's have a look at the date.
It's
Wednesday, 17th April.
17th of April, so it's another month away yet.
Yes, 10:30.
Okay, excellent. So those are the events coming up. We better talk briefly about Soaps on the Box. We've got one last bit to come, because we've got to mention your trip in May, and I'm going to be interested to know what you're going to wear for this. So we'll do that in just a few moments. We've got to talk about Emmerdale. There's Drive Time from the heart of Eastgate. It's Roz here, and we've got about 10 minutes of the show left. 9 minutes now. It's just clicked by another minute. My guest, Sidra Naeem. We've been talking a lot of things. We haven't mentioned Stacey Dooley yet, who is a celebrity documentary maker, and she's come under fire from MP David Lammy. It's an issue over her being white. So she says, Stacey Dooley, she slammed David Lammy. She's the Strictly Come Dancing 2018 champion, if you don't know who she is. The Labour MP has accused her of something I've not heard before, white saviour syndrome. Have you heard of this, Sidra?
I've never heard of that, but that's sad, isn't it? Because most of the poor people are out of England, so that's where you get real poverty, and that's where you're going to give proper real help.
Well, I've got no issues with celebrities of whatever colour going out to far-flung countries where it's poor and using their celebrity status to raise awareness of the plight of the people in those countries and get much needed aid out to them.
Yes, I think that's a really good thing, and it shows humbleness, actually, doesn't it, when a celebrity who's rich and famous...
Well, a lot have done it. And I mean, even Lenny Henry, who is black, has been out there himself. So, you know, I don't understand white saviour. I can see that it's in danger of becoming a stereotype. That kind of celebrity, it's a stereotype celebrity. You know, we see Martin Clunes going off around the world doing various things. But honestly...
But generally, if you think about it, the countries which are developed and have got money are owned by white people, you see. And if you look at the countries which are in poverty and there's always disasters going on there, they're always countries where there will be different colour people there. So you will get this trend where, you know, people from around here would always go to countries where real poverty exists. You know, real poverty, real proper poverty, where you're starving on the streets, doesn't happen in England, for example.
We've got homelessness, but it's a different kind of homelessness.
Different kind of homelessness. Even the homeless, believe it or not, are quite fussy with their food. There's a lot of complaints. Where's the ketchup? Where's the vinegar? Have you got salt? Not enough salt in the caviar? Honestly, it's quite shocking, really. I do have a laugh because I come across them all the time.
That doesn't stop you wanting to help, though.
No, I want to help, but it's quite funny when sometimes they'll, you know, get a bit fussy. Oh, you know, isn't there Heinz ketchup here or things like that? And you just think, you're
Cross and Blackwell Heinz.
Be thankful, you know.
I never would have guessed something like that.
Whereas you wouldn't get that in Africa, for example, because the people there, the children there, if they're starving, they would really be starving, and they would be really.
Well, we've seen it, you know, where they're just skin and bone. Well, David Lammy has tweeted today, and he says that you continue to miss the point. Flying Me, because he's been invited out there himself to be part of this. Flying Me, a British politician out to speak for citizens of a continent I've never lived on, is more of the same patronising fluff. Please invite an African filmmaker, celebrity, farmer, teacher or business person to make a film in my place. Well, you know, an African filmmaker is somebody that's not going to be known throughout the whole world.
Yes.
You're using a celebrity name to gain attention. And if it is Martin Clunes, Lenny Henry, that people will watch. Joanna Lumley, people will watch. Joanna Lumley and the Gurkhas, people will watch and see that particular celebrity, who they like, you know, doing something to help others. Maybe it is a bit of a stereotype, but I don't see that it's wrong. What say you?
Yeah, I don't think it's wrong at all. I think it shows humbleness in rich people, that they're going out there, and obviously they will go where the real poverty is, because that's where it will make a huge difference, more of a difference than it would in this country if they were helping in this country. So there's nothing wrong with that at all. I think it's a very good thing, actually.
Absolutely incredible. And some of the things that have come up today, and I mean there's plenty more we could talk about, and I did have some other topics on my list, but we're rapidly running out of time today, so I've got to say a big thanks to you coming in today, and we will podcast this, won't we?
Yes,
online.
definitely.
I'll tweet it out and everything. And your Twitter, do you know what your Twitter is? You say you've just gone on. I'm going to look you up, because you are there, and I think your name is backwards, isn't it, on there? Is it?
I think so.
Naeem?
Let me have a look.
And I can tweet that out for our listeners to see, and they can link to you if they want to talk to you about anything online. So